So I wanted to just put something up on the channel so there was something happening on it. And the first thing that came to mind, because, well, one, it's kind of easy, was I have a couple scary stories, and since it's that, fall just started and it's spooky season, I was going to go into why I don't go to the beach anymore, because I kind of refuse. Obviously during the day, I'm like genetically goth, so me and the sun don't get along, but at night I also refuse, and that's because I don't know if you guys know this, but in certain parts of the world, I'm gonna be a little vague, the beach attracts crazy people, and I don't mean like fun crazy, or like, oh, how eccentric. I mean like, you need Thorazine, kind of crazy. And I've had a couple encounters that were close enough that I wasn't really comfortable risking the dice anymore. Sorry. And yeah, so basically, I used to work at a movie theater when I was a teenager. And the thing about working at a movie theater is a lot of the time you end off getting off work at like 2 in the morning. It's really late. And a lot of people don't want to go home yet. Like, you still need to unwind and stuff after work, but there's nowhere to really go besides like diners full of cops and like public places like the beach or a park. But parks, the cops jump on you and they're like, why are you in a park in the middle of the night? And it happens on the beach, but they're like more chill about it. So a lot of the time you end up at the beach. Well, this particular night, I'm about 17, 18. I'm not that old, but I'm almost an adult. Like, I was pretty grown. And it was, I want to say like 2, but we got there about 2:30, 2:45. So almost the witching hour, and super dark, like super dark, because we normally go like by this pier because you could park. There's a restaurant across the street from the pier, and then you just walk across. And it got kind of spooky because after a certain amount of time they turn off the pier lights, so it'd just be like little street lights, but it's mostly dark. And it's a little spooky, but whatever. Like, you're a teenage punk rocker, and believe it or not, I was even heavier than I am now. So I was about 210 pounds, and that was back in my fighting days, so like, it wasn't cake, so I was kind of figuring like, alright, well, something happens, I'll handle it, so me and my old boss, who was also, she was kind of one of my best friends, and so if we just got along really well, hated the world together, I guess. I don't know, it's hard working in a theater because like, people just suck, the theater employees. Anyway, we decided to go, and we're rolling out, and she's got one of those big old boat cars, like I don't know exactly, but like a Buick Regal, where there's just a box with the sofa seats and stuff, and we're going, and as far as I know, it's like 9 Inch Nails or something on the radio, because music was really good right then. And we're riding out, we pull in, and we had that kind of relationship where we were close enough you didn't have to fill every second with conversation, so we're kind of just vibing. And we get out of her car, and there's like this hedgerow of bushes, before you get to the pier, so you can't really see too much. So we shoot through the little hedgerow, and we're crossing the street, And then once we're like mostly crossed, I see this kind of silhouette of a person, and they're kind of walking up to us a little slow. But what's weird is the guy, I don't know if I can show you, but the guy's like kind of hunched over, you know? And he's walking kind of like on the front pads of his feet, you know, like, and he looks almost like a little spear hunter guy, and he's like walking like that, right? But I don't see that he's actually holding anything yet, you know, because I just see this kind of dark blur, and then this dude's up on us, and he's like, I couldn't tell if he was like really tan or if he was dirty, but you know, it's the beach, and the only thing he's wearing is like cut off jean shorts. But like, I figured like maybe the dude's bringing the 70s back, because you know, some people, especially like some redneck people, they swim in jean shorts, so that's not an immediate red flag either. And the guy's just kind of like, hey, you gotta smoke, you know? And me, trying to be a buddy, of course, you know, I have a smoke on me, so I just pull one out and light it for him. And I'm like, yeah, no, you know, be good, be gone, you know, like, I didn't say that, but that's kind of the vibe, because we're just trying to chill, like, we're not trying to meet people, you know, basically. And we start walking. Well, this guy falls in line with us, and he's walking like with us, kind of like, it's like, if you picture like there's the sidewalk going up to the pier to get in there, because it kind of loops around, and there's like a playground to this side, and then there's about like maybe a 3-foot gap to the road, and that's where that guy's walking, and me and her are walking kind of side by side. But then I notice he's carrying a pipe, and I mean like when I say pipe, I mean it's about that thick. I don't know if it was a rod or a pipe, you know, but he has dragged it on the asphalt until it's like pointed, like it comes into a sharp point, kind of like a spear, you know. And he's still hunched over walking, and he's like talking to himself a lot, and it's kind of incoherent, like he's hard to understand. I'm not sure if he was drunk or he was out of it, but he kept talking about like stuff like, oh yeah, that, you know, I worked up here and I lost my job, you know, and while he's doing that, he's like trying to piss himself off a little bit. It sounds like he's trying to, you know, like make himself angry, or he's just spinning up to get angry. And I'm kind of worried, you know, like I'm not gonna front, like this was not okay. There was a definitely kind of crazy seeming guy with a weapon trying to piss himself off. So, you know, my friend that's with me, that's my homie, you know, and to her credit, whole time she's like cool as a cucumber, because, you know, she was in the Navy and she had dealt with some stuff. Like, she's pretty tough, you know, so don't think like little damsel in distress kind of girly girl. Like, she's pretty badass. So I kind of slow up, because this guy is slowing up behind us to be behind us, and I'm like, fuck, you know, because I'm still trying to maintain. And when I notice like him starting to spin up, don't ask me how I managed to do it, to keep my cool enough, but like I just talk to him just enough to like try to placate him, you know, and like act like he's part of the conversation. So, you know, he's like, yeah, and I didn't get my tools out, and da-da-da, you know, and stuff. And it's like little fragments of sentences like that, and I'm kind of just like, oh yeah, I know what you mean, man, you know. And then like he kind of calms down, like, okay, we're just hanging out, you know. But so we're walking, and it's like her, and then me, and then this guy, right? So I'm facing forward, trying to pretend like it's normal, and fucking, like, she's still walking, and I have to sit there, and like I'm looking at the shadow that's projected, you know, and I swear to God, like I'm just picturing this like this improvised spear just popping through my chest, you know, every couple of seconds, and I'm like pure tension at this point, and I'm just, you know, like I might have to really handle this guy. And like, don't get me wrong, I wasn't sure that I could handle him. I just knew that I was going to try, because he wasn't going to get my homie, who I don't want to say her name, so I'm just going to call her my homie. And luckily, like, she's pretty with it. Like, she's not, you know, helpless or whatever. So she just kind of like, we get about to the point where we'd be out of the lights, and she just 180s, right? Doesn't say a word, just flips direction, starts walking. I flip direction right after her, you know, like to try to get whatever, and the dude like circles, and he's behind us, and we're still walking, and I'm still just watching this little swinging shadow of this spear, you know, like right in front of kind of like my feet and stuff, because it's casting, you know, forward. So, and it's really bad whenever I come up to, you know, like one of the street lights, because the shadow recedes so I can almost not see it, and I don't want to be like blatant that I'm watching, because I'm really trying not to have this trigger, because it looks like he's trying to set something up so he can like act and do something, you know. And that's why I keep like de-escalating whenever I hear him start talking, you know, and all this. So we basically get, and the whole thing probably took about 5 minutes, but it felt like 4 hours. Like, just straight up, it felt like 4 hours. And I'm sitting here walking, and we get to the part where we have to cross the street into the thing. Now it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and there's like no night traffic or nothing. Like, the entire time this happened, I didn't see a single other car, because it's like in the middle of the weekday, and actually kind of like fall, you know, so it's not like, sometimes there's like miscreants doing whatever, but there wasn't. It was basically abandoned, just a ghost world, and it was like my homie, me, and a psycho. So we're walking across the street, and I'm still like watching the thing, and you know, like I'm playing it cool, like she's playing it cool. I can't speak for her, but like my heart is just like, you know, because I'm like, I might have to fight a man to death, you know, or like I quite possibly could slip up and get killed right now. And you know, every once in a while you just hear this little like unnerving like clink, where like the metal, you know, would hit the road. I don't know, like, you know, but like sharper than that. And it just reminds you that there's a giant, like, well, I say giant, but it was like 3 or 4 feet long that he had, because it was just a section. It looked like he had grabbed, you know, a piece of rebar or like a piece of pipe from a construction thing, which he was talking about, you know, being in construction or something like that. So we're still walking, and it gets to the part, and where those hedgerows are, it's like there's outside hedgerows, and then it goes, and we have to kind of walk through this little walkway up against the building and the hedgerows, right? And then when you get through, that's where the car is, where we're parked. The problem is, this fucking walkway is pitch black. I mean, like, no light, because it was already really low light. But, you know, between the hedges and the wall and the elongated, because it's a good like 10 feet that we gotta walk through, and it's just a total dark tunnel. And right as we go, and it just hit me super wrong, you know? But like it was kind of in line because he had been talking about losing his job and blah blah blah. But right as we start entering, this motherfucker says, "Time to work," right? And I'm like, "No, fuck it," you know, like, and I just whip around, so I'm walking backwards, and I'm just watching this guy at this point because I'm like, "Fuck it," you know, like, make your move, you know, because. Honestly, like, I'm trying to make myself sound tough, but it was like desperation and like terror. You know what I mean? It was just like, okay, I guess we're fighting to the death. You know, and I'm trying to back up to get to the car. And, you know, my friend, she didn't like start running or nothing. So like, we're just at a pace, and it's like her walking and then me walking backwards, and then this guy walking holding his little spear, you know. And like we get to the car, you know, because he doesn't do anything. Like, I'm waiting for him to try to jump me in this little tunnel. And like, I made sure she got in the car, you know, because I had to walk to the far side, and I'm starting to walk from the far side, and I'm like, oh yeah, we gotta bounce, you know, we're going to a party and stuff, which I actually said it smoother than I just said it. You know, I was like, oh yeah, we gotta bounce, we're going to a party. And this guy, like, he makes this face, you know, because he's got like shaggy brown hair and stuff, and he's just looking kind of ate up. And he gets this real weird, like, kind of predator vibe. Like, I don't know if I can do the face, but he's like, who's buying the beer? You know, and it was like such a, like, just a fucking hook. You know, like he was trying to get in. And I was like, oh, she's 22, you know, talking to her. Because at this moment, I'm kind of, you know, sketched, because it's like him, her in the driver's seat in the car, and me on the opposite side of the car, you know. And I'm like trying to get in, and because he asked for a ride. I forgot that part. He was like, oh, hey, can you give me a ride to blah, blah, blah? You know, like, just trying. And I'm like, oh, sorry, we got to go to a party. And then he's like, who's buying the beer? You know, and then and I'm like, oh, she's 22, you know. So I slip in the passenger seat, and I'm sitting there, and so I'm basically like here, and this guy, it's, you know, my homie, and then the guy, and he's outside the car, and he like leans in through the window, so he's like leaning in, and he reaches through and he puts his hand on her arm, and I almost jackrabbit punched the guy, and he like looks at me and he's like, I would have loved her first. And luckily my friend, who's not useless, you know, she just floors it, right? And leaves him. So we're like, you know, and luckily, like, the main bridge to like get away from the beach is right in front of us. So like, she hits it, we turn, we're going. And then once there's like about a block away, because there's no way this guy's chasing us on foot, you know, I grab my friend's cell phone, and I'm like, we should call the cops. And she's like, yeah. So I open the cell phone, and you know, I dialed the, not like 911, but like the actual number. I have to look it up. And this is back long ago. There's no like smartphone stuff, you know what I mean? like they were around, but like normal people didn't have them yet, you know, they hadn't been adopted. So I'm calling, and you know, the lady's like, oh, this is blah blah blah, you know, dispatch, how may I help you, right? And I tell her, I'm like, we're just down at the beach and the pier, you know, like I said, the names, and there's a guy walking around with a sharpened pipe talking to himself, not making a lot of sense. I think he's a pretty disturbed individual. And I remember the lady's like, yeah, it sounds like if he's carrying a weapon. And I was like, we got away safe, but I definitely felt like we were in danger. And maybe you should send some guys. And she's like, it's good you guys got out of there. Don't go back. There's been, you know, like 2 or 3 reported stabbings recently. And, you know, like, I'm just sitting there in the passenger seat like, okay, so this guy's actually fucking stabbed people, like, you know. And I just hung up, and, like, you know, she drove me home, and we were kind of sitting there decompressing for probably too long. But yeah, you know, like, we were just trying to go sit on the beach for a minute and calm down, and instead there was like a 5-10 minute standoff with the frickin' psycho with the sharpened improvised spear, talking to himself, about to impale me in the chest the whole time. And bonus, he had already stabbed like 3 people. So that's the first story as to why I don't go to the beach. There's 2 more. I'm probably going to record them and see if I can't, you know, upload those videos as well. But just be careful if you go to the beach, especially at night, because there's something about the beach that attracts really crazy people. Okay, so thanks for listening to my story. Hopefully it was entertaining. And seeing as this is my absolute first video, if you want to throw me a subscribe or something, you know, like, just to help me try to launch it, or like the video so I know I'm not talking to nobody, that'd be really cool of you. I'm still deciding what to do in general, but I figured I'd just tell a couple of stories that were, you know, true and scary and stuff. There's, well, I guess 1 or 2 of them might be a little supernatural. That one definitely wasn't, though. Yeah, the next one's a little maybe, you know, like nothing super. I'll tell you in the next video. Anyway, I haven't even decided a channel name yet. I'm just making content right now, so I can't say who I am or what channel this is, because I'm figuring out my branding. So I don't know. But thanks for listening. If you made it all the way through, you're a G, and I appreciate you. So bye.